Yay.
All right, a very good evening to ladies and gentlemen who is watching YANA live. And this is probably our 11th live stream, on your weekday nights that we have. And today we have a very special guest with us on a very important topic. So once again, I'm your host for tonight. I'm Hugo Tan. And as you know, for the rest of the region, most of you who are watching this, you are in some form of lockdown or quarantine due to the pandemic. And this has led to a lot of people feeling really stressful because they are in financial distress, they are in relationship distress, or maybe their businesses or career is not going really well. But the silver lining behind all this would be we begin to appreciate the need to understand our mental and emotional wellness. And with this, our very special guest for today is none other than New Zealand internal conflict resolution expert, Faye Lawand. Please give your hands for Faye. Thank you for joining us this evening.
It's evening there, eh? Good evening, because it's morning here. So good evening to you guys and to your listeners over in Asia.
It's a pleasure to have you joining us. I know that it's like past midnight where you are, in New Zealand. So just for a quick overview for our viewers right now, if you are watching this, how you can support this live stream is remember to give us a heart react and to start a wash party. There's no better way to get this message out than to start a wash party so that your friends and family can join in together as we listen to the insights from Faye on the common misconception on stress and how you can transform stress into something better. So let me give a bit of introduction while all of you are coming in on who Faye Lawand is. Faye Lawand is on a mission. To change the attitudes of burnout professionals around managing stress. So as you all know, she is New Zealand's trusted internal conflict resolution expert for the busy professional. Faye is an international speaker and author, has been invited to speak at universities, workplaces, wellness centers, schools, yoga studios, NGOs, just like YANA right here, and in several countries around the world. So Faye has been working over 20 years as an educator and a champion of learning and supporting people's growth. So right now, Faye specializes in mentoring burnout people like you and me, to resolve their internal conflicts so they can reconnect with their full potential to feel calmer, clear, and more fulfilled. And towards the end of this live stream, I will let Faye speak a bit about her upcoming program that you can be a part of, which is actually the 7-step formula for transforming stress. This has been done, over years of research and training, in response to her own experience in managing internal conflicts, anxiety, and burnout. So once again, I can see a couple of comments already coming in. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Keep the comments coming so that our speaker know that you are here, right? I can see Feng Chen is here, Caitlin, and Nanik. So we have Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia. You're in. Bring your friends in, guys. So with this, let's get back to you, our star for tonight, right? Faye, how have you been doing?
I'm really, really good, Hugo, really good. On so many levels, I'm feeling well. And I also happen to be living in a part of the world right now where the COVID situation is pretty much under control. And I'm super grateful about that, Hugo, because I know that that's not the case in most parts of the world right now, and that's causing a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, and stress. I get it. It's huge what's going on our planet. It's huge. We can't underestimate what's going on in our planet and how that creates an internal feeling of uncertainty, and how that uncertainty can translate into those feelings and that physiology of stress. It's a big deal what our planet is going through. It's a huge deal.
Indeed. Just for a quick check, right? Which part of New Zealand are you currently in?
Yeah, so I'm in Auckland, in the largest city in New Zealand. Yeah, have you been here before?
I've not been to the Auckland part of it, but yeah, good to know, because I just recall, I never quite asked you where were you from, in New Zealand. So that's good to know. If any of you watching this is from Auckland, do remember to comment below. Let us know, man. Bring in some Kiwi spirit here tonight.
Yeah.
All right. So let us start straight away, right? Dive right into the topic of stress. A lot of people has talked about stress. They have written articles on it. And, when we talk about mental health, like one of the first things that people think about is stress. It is like this topic that has been around forever. However, I remember you mentioned that there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding stress. Can you perhaps, for our early viewers here, can you perhaps name one or two that you feel what we get wrong with stress?
Sure. Well, I think the most common misconception is that stress is bad for you and therefore needs to be managed. And the implication behind that is that if you manage it, then it will no longer be problematic. But the problem with that, Hugo, is that so many of us, and probably, you've had this experience in your journey at some point in your life, maybe your viewers, let me know if that's the case. You're doing your stress management techniques, but you're still feeling stressed. Like we all have heard and we've read and, we're told that we need to keep our stress levels down, and we need to, do diaphragmatic breathing, and we need to do yoga, and we need to do meditation, we need to exercise, we need to maybe, take some essential oils or some massages and stuff like that. Maybe you're doing some of those, maybe you're doing all of those. And if you're still not feeling the way you want to feel, and if you're still feeling burdened down by stress, it's because your mindset around stress is still that old conditioned response that stress is bad and stress needs to be managed and stress needs to be avoided. But you can't avoid stress. That's the thing. You can't. I mean, stress is a natural response to life. It's a natural adaptation response. Now, the thing, though, the type of stress that is bad for you, that, yes, you should eliminate or you should definitely minimize, is a type of stress that comes from survival of your life, fear for your life, when your life is literally in threat and literally in danger. That's the type of stress that you don't want to be in perpetually over a long period of time. But the type of stress that most of us experience in our day-to-day life isn't the stress that's in response to fear of losing our life. For most of us anyway, Hugo. I mean, it's not because our life is literally in danger. The reason that so many of us are in that stress response in our daily and in our regular lives is because there's an internal response or perception of fear of some sort. And if you just try to manage stress, you're actually missing out on what it is exactly that's creating the fear response. So you can't resolve it at its core. And it persists and it grows. And as you continue to avoid the stress and avoid what's really underneath the stress and underlying the stress, you create a loop of stress and negativity for yourself, because you're working so hard to manage your stress, you're still feeling what you're feeling, that underlying thing is not resolved, you get more stressed out about being stressed, and then it goes, you're just kind of like in that cycle loop. Yeah, so I hope that's answered your question, your initial question.
Indeed, indeed. I think a lot of people have this idea about how they can eliminate stress once and for all. They have this idea of the stress-free life, you know, as if they, as if there is a dream on how a person and a stress can be two separate entities once and for all, you know, and they're waiting for that magic pill. So
Hugo, if
another
you
thing
just
that,
wait,
yeah,
sorry, I'm sorry to
yes,
interrupt you. If you
please.
just kind
Mhm.
of like just to echo that and to add on to
Yeah.
that, if you actually stop to think, you and your viewers right now, like if you just take
Mhm.
a moment to
Mhm.
just think about what are the things that cause you stress in your life, and if you just think about the top three things that cause you stress
Mhm.
right now, you'll probably realize that those are also the areas in your life that matter to you. I hear this from my clients all the time. The things that cause them stress: their job, their
Mhm.
relationships, their health, their families, a certain job interview, a certain project, so on and so forth. And if you stop to think about it, then those things that actually are the stressors in your life are the things that really matter to you, because you will not feel stress around something that doesn't matter. You feel stress because you care, because what matters to you, actually there's a perception around. And when you start doing what I'm about to talk to you about, which is transforming stress and not managing it, you're able to actually connect with meaning to your life, because you're able to actually see that the things that you're stressing about are the most meaningful things in your life.
Mhm.
And you start to develop a different relationship with that area in your life. And it's not that the stress is no longer there, but the experience of it is very different. Very, very, very different.
I I think to sum up from what you have been about our attitude towards stress.
The mindset is
Mhm.
everything. It is everything.
Mhm.
You know, Hugo, I am no stranger to mental health. I have had
Mhm.
so many issues with mental health in my early and middle adult life, but I didn't know that it was, mental health imbalances. And I didn't know that it was okay not to feel unwell mentally. And when I started doing the work to actually feel better and to resolve my mental health issues, I remember hearing someone saying once that the mind that makes you sick is the mind that also makes you well, right? The
Very
mind
true.
that creates the anxiety is the same mind that can help you resolve the anxiety and experience the calm. The mind that does the depression is the same mind that can help you resolve the depression to experience more joy or whatever you want to feel. So what I'm trying to get to is that mindset is it's the key. It's everything. It is everything, because mindset are your thoughts, they're your programs of thinking, they're your emotions, they're your judgments, and that then informs your actions or your non-actions. Yeah, so you've got
Well,
to start with the mindset, but
mhm.
not generically. I'm not talking about getting into a positivity mindset. That's not what I'm talking about
Mhm.
at all, because actually it
Mhm.
can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? It can create a lot of friction actually internally
Mhm.
if you're not feeling well and positive, and you're just telling yourself things that are positive and you're willing yourself to feel well and positive. That doesn't really work. When I'm talking about mindset, it's actually shifting your perceptions, because it's your perceptions that actually create and unlock and trigger and activate these internal responses.
I think there is this quote, right, by the Dr. Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at
Yes,
things, the things you look at change. You know, that's like personal
100%
favorite.
true. 100% true. And that points back to perception. It's everything.
Very true. I would love to read out a comment by Caitlin, right? Caitlin says that that is indeed true, because you won't stress about something if it doesn't mean a thing to you. If we stress about something, mostly it's because that thing is high in our hierarchy of values. It's something we care about. Therefore, we expect a bit more, you know. And it's possibly because we expect more, therefore we feel like we have more challenges than support, and therefore we feel stressed. What do you say?
But Hugo, the thing is around that, and Caitlin, I'm glad that resonates with you. I mean, when I heard that, the penny really, really dropped in my life. It really, really dropped, because this piece around relating to stress was the last kind of area that I applied in my life for my mental health to really, really stabilize. And when I realized that, it just literally changed everything, because the research and the science is now telling us that when you connect to stress in a different way, and when you start to see, for example, that you're only stressing out about things that matter to you, and you change your mindset, your internal biology changes, and your internal neurochemistry changes. And that neurochemistry then that changes starts producing coping strategies that are very, very resourceful and very, very beneficial. And then just to connect back a little bit about what you were talking about this thing about, like, we stress because it matters to us. But remember that stress is the fear response, right? It's the fear of losing something. And you're stressing because there's a fear that you're losing something that really matters to you. Otherwise, you would not feel fearful. You will not feel fearful. And the thing is, you can actually change that fear response internally, keep the connection to what really matters, but change the fear response internally into something else. And that's why we talk about transforming it, because it is about transforming it, not about managing it. Because if you're when you're managing something, you are immediately, the mindset is that it's not good, and you need to do something about it. But when you're transforming it, I mean, think about it. When you're transforming something, you're changing it. When you're transforming something, you're actually taking energy from it, and that energy is adding something to your life instead of detracting something from your life. And that's why it's so important to rethink stress as to something that we transform and that we don't manage, if we really want resilience and mental health and mental well-being.
All right. I think Faye has actually mentioned a couple of very important distinctions, that we need to keep in mind: managing stress versus transforming stress. And I would like to give a shout out to our viewers who are watching in several other pages right now coming in. Sylvia, Ramanita, welcome. So if you're watching this, do remember to leave a comment and to share, right? We are still very early into the live stream, and I can see some of you are joining right after your prayers. Welcome. All right, okay, so let's get to it, right? Can you share with us one situation, right? One stressful situation that you had in your life, and what is your strategies back then, in coping with it, and how would you do it better right now with all the new knowledge and mindset? Yep.
It's a really good question. So before I came across this life-changing work, I think that I would describe myself as a stress bunny. Do you know what I mean? Like I would stress about everything, Hugo. Like every little detail I would stress about. What does this person think about me? Oh my God, the job, the deadlines, the boss, the driving, the relationship, the parents, the bank account, the body, my goodness, the body, the gym, like everything. There was stress stress about everything. And of course, also not taking time to recuperate from the stress is problematic. And I want to talk about that in a moment. But when I came across this work, I now do some things very, very differently. Anytime that I experience that old feeling of stress, I stop. This is the most important thing, is I stop. Like, you need to notice it. This is why we're saying mindset, because you need to be aware of how you do stress in order to be able to consciously change it. Because the pattern of doing stress is so subconscious. I mean, we've repeated it so many times, probably over our lifetime, that it's become a habit that we don't even think about consciously. So you need to be conscious of how you do it. And now, because I am conscious of how I do it, when I feel it coming on, I stop. I notice what's going on and I immediately switch it. Like, for example, before coming on here, I was stressed. I felt it. I felt it in my throat. I felt it in my body. I felt it in my tummy. However, it did not debilitate me because I knew what was happening. And I'm like, okay, this is what you're feeling in your body. You're feeling this in your body because this interview matters to you. So because it matters to you, just recognize that it matters to you. Acknowledge that it matters to you. And you see, when you do that, when you tap into that mattering and that sense of meaning, your body starts to give you different types of coping strategies that actually allow you to perform really, really well. And, if you think about any big thing that you've ever done and that you've ever achieved in your life, you probably didn't do it and achieve it in a calm, zened out state. Never. I mean, you think about Olympic athletes, big performers, they're not in a zened out, calm state when they are in their performance state, but they've managed to do something internally inside their minds that allows them to still feel the jitters, to still actually be aware of this high stress situation, but without experiencing the debilitating effects of stress, and really tapping into a lot of internal power and a lot of internal energy. So Hugo, just to summarize this long-winded, this long response, first things first, you need to recognize that you're doing this old pattern and that you don't want to do this old pattern anymore. You need to start becoming conscious of how you do stress. And then once you have that awareness, it's asking yourself, I'm feeling this way. What is it that matters to me? And once you understand what it is that matters to you, then you understand what's going on in your body, and it just opens you up to a different way of relating and responding to the situation that is calling for your response, because that's what stress is. It's just a response, an adaptation response. That's all it is.
Very true, very true. I love that you give the analogy of a sports professional, right? I mean, athletes, definitely they are not exactly in the most zen mode,
No.
During the crucial times. I mean, they need to perform. They know expectation. All eyes are on them. They definitely experience some form of stress, and of course, in the midst of adrenaline rush as well. So it's a matter of accepting that there will be stress, at the same time, not to let it put us down. Is that what you are saying, Faye?
Yes, and actually, yes, absolutely. Because when you connect to why you're feeling the way you're feeling, recognizing it, not pushing it down, recognizing that you're feeling this way because it matters to you. Like before an interview, oh my gosh, I mean, please raise your hand if you've never been nervous before an interview or felt stressed before an interview or a big exam or a big presentation. Or for me coming on here today, I mean, like I felt a lot of stress. And the reason is, you recognize you're feeling this way because this matters to you. The exam matters, the interview matters, the podcast interview matters, the marathon matters. And that's actually good. It matters because it's connecting you to something that's really important to you. And when you're connected to what's really important to you, you get a different source of fuel and a different source of energy. You know, it's an energy that comes from the adrenaline that can create a lot of creativity and performance and productivity and energy. There's that word energy again. But you cannot access that if, as you're feeling what you're feeling in your body, you're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed, and then you get that internal chatter that isn't very helpful to you. That language, the language we use around stress internally, not sure externally, but internally, is so much part of the problem as well, Hugo. And that's one of the things I actually teach my clients is like, what are you telling yourself on the inside? Because the words you tell yourself on the inside are the most powerful words that you will ever hear, ever.
I think we are really getting in touch with your 7 steps formula to transform stress. I look at it, you know, you have actually mentioned things like how to relate to stress differently, which is part of the 7 step as well.
Yeah.
And to assume responsibility for change, you know, and to actually keep the negativity bias in check. I think that's really important, because sometimes we are kind of harsh on ourselves. You know, that just makes matters worse. You know, I also realized that yes, Faye, please.
No, please go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, we have many different guests, you know, that came on here. You know, we have counselors, hypnotherapists. But I do realize that you are not just NLP trainer. I'm also aware that you are also into yoga and a lot of different practices for well-being.
Yeah.
How does that integrate into your system?
That's a good question. So it has to be a multimodality approach, you see, because when you're experiencing mental health difficulties or burdens, it's experienced in more than one way in yourself. You feel it in your body, you feel it in your mind, you feel it in your emotions. It affects your life, it affects your lifestyle, it affects the way you relate to yourself, it affects the way you talk to yourself, it affects the way you move your body, it affects your nervous system. And that's why if you want a long-lasting solution, and I think, you know, we're on here because we want a long-lasting solution. We've probably tried things in the past and they haven't really worked. And so if we want a long-lasting solution, Hugo, we need to address the whole self, the whole person, and the whole issue. And so you need to do something for the body, and you need to do something for the breath, and you need to do something for the nervous system, and you need to do something for the mind and the emotions and the lifestyle. And this is why I draw from different modalities, because different modalities have different strengths, different unique strengths for these particular areas. So yes, it is a multimodality approach, because mental health issues and struggles are very, very, very multi-layered and multidimensional, and you need a multimodality solution.
Interesting. I think a lot of practitioners nowadays do look into multiple sources for knowledge, you know, different approaches. I remember last week we have a therapist, you know, on here on live, and she says that when she deals with stressful situations, the first thing that she will always do is to go into she has a couple of deep breathing methods, right? Is that something you do as well? Do you have any special tips from yoga breathing methods?
Yes. See, with breathing. Breathing is essential, right? Like, I mean, breathing is life. Breathing, we can go days without food. You know, we can go weeks without food, days without water. We can maybe go seconds. Maybe only the most advanced yogis can go maybe like a couple of minutes without breath. I mean, breath is really, really life. And the way you tap into your breath is really going to vitalize your life and your body. But Hugo, this is the thing that I know from my own personal experience, having gone through mental health and now also being a mind-body practitioner, because I teach a lot of mind-body practices. Breath retention is probably the worst thing that you can do for yourself if you're feeling stressed. And unfortunately, a lot of breathing techniques out there, the yogic breathing techniques, they involve some kind of breath retention. Breath retention, if you're feeling stressed, is going to actually send your nervous system into more sympathetic activation. And this is not the type of breath that's going to be calming to your mind and calming to your emotional state. You need breath coherence. And what we mean by breath coherence is a type of breath that gets your nervous system into what's called heart rate variability, where the blood pressure drops, where the anti-inflammatory pathways open up, where the negative depleting emotions, they calm down, where the positive emotions, they spontaneously come up to the surface. And that type of breath coherence is so easy to do and yet so nourishing. And all you do with breath coherence is you balance out your inhalations to your exhalations. So you breathe in for one and you breathe out for one. You breathe in for one, you breathe out for one, or you breathe in for two, you breathe out for two. The actual number doesn't really matter. It's actually balancing out your inhalations and your exhalations that's going to get your body, your nervous system, your mind, and your emotions into a very, very balanced, healthy equilibrium. And this comes from the tremendous amount of research out of HeartMath in the United States that actually looks at scientific proven ways to manage stress, to deal with stress. I want to say deal with stress. So yeah, that's that with the breath. But the breath is also an incredible tool for you to be present in the moment. You know, just noticing that you're inhaling and noticing that you're exhaling is going to connect your mind to what's happening now in the moment, and your mind won't be drifting and traveling into the past or into the future. So anything that you can do that's going to anchor your mind to the present moment is going to be very beneficial. This is why, you know, meditation is very useful. This is why breath work, breath sensing is very useful. And this is why also engaging the senses is very useful, because when you open up your senses to the here and to the now, once again, your mind is present and your mind isn't going to be drifting into the past or into the future. So I hope that's answered your question around breath and breath work and breath techniques.
I think that's very true, because when you mentioned that anything that anchors us to the present will be helpful to us, I think that's really true, right? Because when we are stressed, we are usually stressed about what is going to happen next. You know,
or about what happened in the past. Or Hugo, about what happened in the past, you know, because we haven't dealt with what happened in the past, right? So it's there, it's with us, you know, it's even though we're not even though we're pushing it away, it's there, it's still there. So we're either stressing about what happened in the past, or we're stressing about what's going to happen tomorrow, or sometimes we're stressing about both. And because the mind and the body are connected, and because the mind does not know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary, if you're having thoughts inside your mind that are upsetting or that are fearful or that are fear-provoking, your mind is going to create little pictures and little movies of those. And those are then going to be felt neurochemically in your body as something that we then label as stress or depression or anxiety or worry or panic. And I'm not minimizing your experience if you're listening to this at all. I really honor it. And I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to express upon you that stress isn't what you think it is, that the depression and the anxiety, they're not what you really think they are. And again, I've been there myself, you know, so I totally know that this isn't something to be, dishonored. But really, stress is not the problem. The anxiety is not the problem. It's what's going on inside that's problematic, Hugo. And when we're not looking at what's going on inside and altering that, then what's going on inside ends up running the show and starts manifesting itself in these very negative ways of feeling in our body and in ourselves.
I think Faye brought out another point, right, about how all these unresolved issues is actually manifest in many ways, physically. Okay, I would like to give a shout out to some of our viewers who are watching. Putri Gyani, welcome. May Ino, Ronald, Vincent, Esther, welcome. Nepali Pradeep, welcome. Okay, I would like to take this question, right? So this is a question from Lim. I think it's been a while, you have commented. Is CBT effective and practical to use as one of the therapy for stress? Okay, so for our viewers who is watching this, what is CBT? Is cognitive behavioral therapy. So what do you say, Faye? Is it effective in your experience?
Great question. Thanks for the question, Lim. So I actually incorporate CBT into my work as a modality, but not as a primary modality. Lim, as I was saying earlier, and the rest of you, it's not a one modality solution. It really isn't, because I think if it were a one modality solution, all of you right now would have found the solution, right? Because it's not just one thing, because there's so many layers to the stress and to the mental health struggles. It's got to be multimodality. I'll tell you the power of CBT, where it's really useful and why I incorporate it into my work. It's really good at helping you start to reframe your thinking. And it's essential to reframe your thinking. And what do I mean by reframe your thinking? It's actually changing your thought pattern so that you're not believing everything that the mind is generating. The mind is constantly generating thoughts and ideas, constantly. And if you believe everything that your mind generates, you're going to drive yourself crazy, because most of what the mind generates is negative. So CBT is really good at helping you challenge the thoughts and the ideas coming into your mind, which is really, really, really important to move forward. And yeah, it's really beneficial with that. But what I also found, Lim, that you need to look at relating to thinking as well and to negativity, if you really want to keep that negativity bias in check, is you also need to look at the emotions underlying the negative thoughts and the negative beliefs. Because usually it's the negative emotions or negative events from the past that create the negative emotions that lock these beliefs and these thoughts in place. I'll give you an example. As an example, this is from my own personal life. For a very, very long time, I was 43 years old when I got married for the very first time, 43. Even though I really wanted to be in a happy relationship and, I really wanted to be in a committed relationship, it just was not happening for me. That created a lot of stress in my life. In more than one area. When I started doing this work for myself and with myself, and looking at that belief that I have around, I suck at relationships, or, I'm never going to be in a happy relationship, and all of the compounding ideas around that and thoughts around that, underneath that, there was actually a very negative emotion of hurt. It was the hurt from all the relationships in the past and all the previous relationships that weren't resolved that was actually creating and holding up that negative belief and that negative thought pattern. And when I dealt with the hurt and when I released the hurt from the mind at a deep level of mind, that belief pattern and that thought pattern changed. It transformed, actually. And when that belief pattern transformed and changed, not a few months later, I was in a very happy relationship, and I ended up getting married to the man, and now here I am living with him in New Zealand. And that's just one example of how our thinking is actually that blocks what we want in our life, and our thinking is blocking what we want in our life because of a very negative emotion that has not been dealt with at a deep level of mind. Now, most of these things we're not aware of. We're not really aware of them. And this is why it's so important to look at, what do you believe? What do you believe? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what do you believe? One of the things I ask my clients to do, we're talking about stress in the area of stress, is write a list. What do you believe about stress? And then look at that list. And then as you look at that list, just ask yourself 2 questions. Is this belief useful to you or is it not? And ask yourself another question. Is this belief yours or did you pick it up from somewhere? And most of the time you'll realize that the beliefs that we have are not very helpful, and that the beliefs that we have that are not helpful are not ours. We picked them up from somewhere. And so, yes, in that sense, CBT is very, very useful in providing us with tools and frameworks to question our beliefs, but it's not complete in that it doesn't help us release the emotions and then the negative charge that keeps those thoughts in place. And you really need to look at a way to remove those negative emotions that lock in the negative beliefs. And when you do the 2, then you're on to lasting change.
Awesome. So I think that's a great personal experience and also a sharing. I think what is really interesting is that in the many of the mental health live streams or workshops that we do, the questions on mental health always comes back to some form of relationship question. It seems that the way we relate to people around us actually causes a lot of stress. People don't dare to come out because of their family, or they don't dare to speak up. They're in a lot of stress because they do not know how to manage it or how to solve a problem without also affecting the relationship around them.
And this is huge because we are part of communities, and we don't exist in a vacuum. And also, being part of a community is it's a pathway to also resilience, because accessing community and accessing support and accessing resources and connecting to resources and support are a pillar actually of health and well-being and resilience, right? And so, what in that sharing that I had around myself, I know from personal experience, because I come from an Asian country and an Asian culture as well, where the relationships can be both a source of strength and a source of suffering. I come from the Middle East. I come from the Arab world. And in the Arab world, much like in Asia, Hugo, there's still very much a stigma around mental health. And there's still very much a stigma around mental wellness or mental well-being. And if it's not in your body, then really, you're fine and you need to be getting on with life. There's really nothing wrong with you. And you're just, you're pretending, or you're just putting on a show. So I know firsthand, again, what that's like. I totally know what that's like. But so from my own experience, and this is why it's part of the 7-step formula, that connecting to resources, internal and external, is essential. This is why if you happen to find yourself in a situation like that, where certain family pressures are creating or adding to the perception of stress in your life, that you become even more mindful and even more selective about how you structure your relationships, where you most spend your energies, who you most share with, and take an inventory of your relationships and of your life. And there are certain negative relationships and certain negative people that maybe we cannot eliminate totally from our lives. I totally understand that. But maybe what you can do with those negative relationships and those negative people is maybe create a little bit of distance, at least mental distance. And then start looking at who are the other relationships in your life right now that actually support you, that support your values, that support where you're going in life, that support the way you want to live your life. And maybe start to, some way or another, spend more time with them, either in person if you can, or at least in your mind, or at least via connecting with them via, technology and social media and so on and so forth. I cannot begin to express to you how important it is to take inventory of the negative influences in your life and the relationships in your life, and to look at those with honesty, with real honesty, and invest in those that are working for you and rethink those that aren't working for you.
That's fantastic, because I think a lot of people has this question, like what you mentioned. I know a lot of the practices would be to cut that person off, to limit interaction with the people that saps away energy from you, right? What we term as the energy vampires, around us. But at the same time, people always come back to this question, right? Like, let's say if a young, say, a student might be living with her parents or family, she can't run away because she's in that environment. Or someone, like, for example, you could be working more with working professionals, right?
Yeah.
And they are working in the same office. And that toxic person that they want to avoid could be their superior or someone who's sitting next right to them.
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you offer to them? How do they do it?
That's very real. That is very, very, very real. I think first of all is actually recognizing that actually that is a very real and stress-provoking situation. Absolutely. When we're talking about transforming stress, and when we're talking about taking inventory of who's in your life, and we're not talking about totally denying that there's certain relationships that work and that don't work. So first, definitely recognize it. I think when you start recognizing it, and you start then also working on strengthening the areas in your life that work for you, the balance seems to balance out a little bit, Hugo, But if all there is right now in your life are the problematic people and the problematic relationships and the problems in your head, and you're not offsetting that with internal feelings of resources, with good positive relationships, with good positive thinking, with moving forward, if you're not counteracting it with something, it will really weigh you down, and it will take over your life. So yes, recognize it. Be really kind to yourself. Like, say, like, yes, this totally sucks. Yes, you are in a really difficult situation right now. Yeah, absolutely, you are in a difficult situation right now. I understand that this is difficult right now, right? But what can you do? What can you really realistically do about it? It's that the serenity prayer. There's certain things that you can't really change, right? Maybe you can change your boss. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, right? But maybe we can't really change our father or our mother or our sister or our aunt or our grandmother or our grandfather. But realistically, what can you change within the parameter of that relationship? And if you ask yourself that question, realistically, what can you change? It's going to come down to you. You can change how you respond. You can change how you think about the situation. You can change what pictures you put inside your mind. You can change what words you're using, what words you're telling yourself, what words you're telling others. All of those things you have control over. But the way the boss is, or the aunt, or the neighbor, or you can't really change that. You can't really change it. But you can definitely change how you respond to it. And this is why central to my work is assuming responsibility for change, because you are the only person who can actually help you and make you feel better. And it's actually quite freeing when you really take that on and you really think about it and consider it and own it. When you realize that you're the only person who can actually help you and help you move forward, then you also realize that you have everything it takes on the inside. And nobody can take that away from you once you really feel into it. Once you really know how powerful you are on the inside, nobody can take it away from you. You will still have annoying bosses. I mean, God knows I have so many annoying people in my life. I can't even begin to tell you, Hugo. But you know, there's a different internal response to it, right? There's a different internal dialogue. There's a different reset from it. And so it's not the big stress-provoking situation that it used to be.
I think what you have just mentioned reminds me of this. It's not exactly a quote, but it's something like, you know, we started out very smart. We tried to change the world, and then we realized, you know, that's not going to work. So go back and work on my family. Then I realized maybe that's not what needs to be done, and I end up changing myself. You know, so
right.
Yeah,
that's the only thing we have control over. And that's why, you know, these conversations are very, very important. Being part of a community like this, and when we're talking about relationships earlier, you know, like actually connecting to communities like this is also a really powerful way to offset the negative influences of other relationships that aren't building you up. This is why it's really important to seek out communities where you can be yourself, where there's like-minded people, where you can speak openly, especially if you don't have that in your immediate network or in your immediate kind of family unit.
Okay, I've been reading your. Okay, I can see some of you have been DM me, you know, questions and stuff like that. So right now I'm going to take on a couple of it. Okay, so we have this question from Indonesia. What do you think about creating SMART goals as a way to positively structure our life? To reduce the outcome of stress. Okay. Is there a way to structure our life to make it less stressful?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. And SMART goals are good. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with SMART goals per se, because, you know, with SMART goals, I mean, at least you're thinking about what you want, and you're directing your focus and your attention to what you want, which is good, which is very, very good. I would actually take it one step further, Hugo. I would also encourage your viewer from Indonesia and all of your other viewers to add on to that. So to ask yourself, what do you really want? You know, I don't know, when was the last time you asked yourself, what do you really want? And to really take your time answering that question. And you know, the way that I coach my clients to do that is like to just like take a piece of paper or take if you're more into drawing, like just get a blank piece of paper and just put on the top, what do I want? And don't feel like you need to complete this today or tomorrow or in a finite amount of time. Just start writing down or drawing sentences or writing words of what you really want, your heart's desire. And as you start connecting to what you want, what you really, really want inside, you start coming into the power that comes from your heart brain. And you also start having an understanding of what you want your life to be and what you want your life to look like, so that you can live life in truth to yourself and not in truth to what someone else wants. Especially for us, and I say us because, you know, coming from the Middle East, it's kind of a very similar mindset that your life is supposed to reflect what your family wants. And that can create a lot of stress. I mean, I know that I've been there. And yes, there is a way that you can balance honoring your family with honoring yourself, but it's not okay to just honor your family and not honor yourself. And really, as you can't honor yourself if you're not truthful with yourself and with what you want. So for sure, SMART goals are great, but I don't think that they're enough to really come into the full expression of how you want your life to be and to look and to feel and to serve you and support you in this world. There has to be a vision and a heart piece and a mission piece to it as well. That doesn't come overnight, but it comes. And that practice, just the practice of getting clear on what you want, can actually be a massive stress reduction exercise because, Hugo, your brain cannot think about what you want and what's not working in your life at the same time. It puts your brain into a different space of hope and possibility. When you're in hope and possibility, the brain functions in a very different way, in a way that is very resilient and very supportive to your life goals and your life intentions. And I hope that's answered the question for your viewer.
Very true. I love that you point out that no two contradicting thoughts, could occupy the same space at the same time,
Can't.
And yeah, recently I've been studying positive psychology, and they have something similar.
Yeah.
On understanding, there is this research on understanding what makes people more resilient.
Yes.
There's this whole experiment on it. But to put it, simply, quick and easy, for our audience here, is that what they do realize is that people that are more optimistic, not to say, you got to be like blindly optimistic, but those that are a bit more hopeful turn out usually to be more resilient than those that are not.
Totally. Because hope and negativity don't coexist. And one of the steps, one of the pieces of my work is keeping the negativity bias in check, because now they've actually found that it's the negativity. All mental health illness is actually an imbalance of negative thoughts and an over bias towards negativity. All of it, really. So there are many ways to keep the negativity bias in check. Maybe we can have another session just about that. But one way to keep the negativity bias in check is to focus the awareness and the attention on these seeds of hope and gratitude and appreciation and things that are actually working in your life. So either focusing your attention on things that are working in your life or focusing your attention on things that you want to move towards in your life. It immediately shifts your biology as you shift your psychology immediately.
Definitely. It's a question of what we are paying attention to. And, that old phrase, right? What is that phrase again? Where attention goes, energy flows.
Energy flows, absolutely. And then there's another phrase from Dr. Rick Hansen. Our brain is like Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. Like we are drawn, our brain is drawn to what's negative and what's not working. And it kind of is very oblivious to the positive. And so we've got to train that. You've got to do something with that.
True. I think we are coming very close towards the final part of our live stream for tonight. We might do an one on Instagram as well, a quick one, just to try it out. But there is another question that I would like to pick up from the audience. I think she has been waiting for a long time. Okay, the question is, all those strategies on stress management is great, but how do we deal with our emotions, that is involved in the stress? Okay, so I guess, the question is mostly like, step A, B, C, D, sounds good enough, but when emotions are thrown into the mix, it gets so messy. So what do you say? How do you regulate your emotions, Faye?
That is an excellent question, super perceptive, because until and unless you actually have a gauge and understanding of what's going on emotionally for you, you can continue applying all the stress management techniques, and they're not going to do much for you. I mean, they're really, look, by the way, I'm not putting down stress management techniques. They're very, very good to support your nervous system. Like breathing is really good, yoga is really good, essential oils. Please continue doing all of those. But I guess where we're going with this conversation is if you're doing all of these things and you're still feeling stressed, then what's the missing piece and what's the missing link? And absolutely, the area around emotions and the unresolved emotions is key and critical it absolutely then keeps your nervous system stuck in that stress response and looping it around and around and around. And so what you need to do is you need to find a way to resolve that emotional charge at a deep layer of mind. Now, when the best way to resolve an emotional charge is to edit the memory in your mind. And then the work that I do with the professionals that I coach and that I help through major life challenges, this is what we do with the emotions. You're not changing it. You're not changing how you feel. It's not what you're doing. But what you're doing is you're editing the way the emotion or the memory is stored in the mind. And when you change the way it's stored in your mind or registered in your mind, the response to it is very different. And then you're able to respond to it in the way that you want to consciously. But if it's very overwhelming, the emotion, and a very old emotion, and an emotion from a time in your life where you didn't have internal coping mechanisms, that emotion is going to run the show. And even though you might want to feel confident, calm, happy, or whatever, it's not happening. But when you work on editing the memory, then you can then paste the emotion that you want to feel instead. And remember what I said a moment ago, the mind does not know the difference between real and imaginary. So if you paste an emotion that you want, the mind will accept it and believe it to be true, and it will behave as if it is true. And it is that simple. And this can be done. You will be surprised at how quickly this happens. I do this in my clinic every single day, and my clients tell me, I cannot believe this. I've been going to therapy for 20 years to deal with this emotion, to deal with this life situation. And how can it be gone so quickly? Well, because the brain is a very, very quick generator, like these programs are formed so quickly. So why do you think that you need a lifetime to resolve them? You don't. If you're able to go to the level of mind where the negativity is stored, and you're able to then shift the memory, it shifts very, very quickly, very, very quickly. So that is my quick response is edit the memory in the deep layer of mind. Now, some people can do it by themselves, but very, very few people can. And this is why you need somebody trained in this type of work. So, find someone who's trained in that type of work. If you'd like to have a conversation with me on how I can help you, by all means, get in touch.
Definitely. I think Faye will share her contacts details, on the chat, and we will share it with you all as well who is watching this. Okay, to wrap it up, as you know, this is very unusual times, and also a great time for us to get connected with our mind, our internal self.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people out there who is watching this? How does one stay resilient through these very difficult times? What are the few quick practices that they should be aware of?
I think the very first thing, Hugo, probably the most important thing, is to actually realize and recognize that there is nothing usual about what's going on in the world right now. There's nothing usual about it. And our nervous system is primed for safety, which it interprets through predictability and familiarity. So right now, there's nothing familiar in the world around us. There's nothing predictable. And that's creating a lot of imbalance internally. And our nervous systems are very much out of balance. And so the first thing that you need to do is actually recognize that there is nothing usual about what's going on. And therefore, it is very normal for you to be feeling what you're feeling. It's actually 100% normal for you to feel what you've been feeling. All of us, all 7 billion of us on this planet this year have been challenged and have felt the range of emotions. We had 2 lockdowns here in Auckland, Hugo, and during both lockdowns, I actually went to see a mental health professional to get support on stuff that was going on for me on the inside, because there's no shame for it, right? So there's no shame in that. So please recognize that it's so normal for you to be feeling what you're feeling. The other thing that I would like to point out is that there's a lot of opportunity that when you realize that there's something wrong, then you have the opportunity and the potential to change it. And this is the whole thing. These internal conflicts are actually a gateway to growth and to achieving our full potential. Because without them, we would not have an opportunity to go deep inside to evolve and grow and transform. We'd keep doing what we've been doing, getting the results or not that we've been getting or not getting. So there's tremendous opportunity that comes from this. But once again, it's shifting that mindset to allowing that to even be a possibility, because there really is a lot of potential in this, a lot of potential individually, collectively, and I would like to think globally.
I love the fact that you mentioned you went to seek help. You know, that is so important to all of you who is watching this, because it's a brave thing to do. You know, when you don't know what to do, you go and seek help. That's the natural, that's the right thing to do, you know. Everyone needs help, you know. Doesn't matter whether you are a mental health professional, whether you are a therapist, whether you are a teacher, whether you are in a position of leadership. In fact, if anything, if you are in a position of leadership where people look up to you, all the more so you need support, you need all the help you need, you know, because people are counting on you. So if you are a manager, a leader at work, if you're a parent, if you're a spouse, right? And if you need someone to speak to. So Faye has this upcoming program called the 7 Steps to Transform Your Stress. Would you like to speak a bit about what that program is about and how long is the duration?
Sure, thanks, Hugo. It's actually it's a 6-week program aimed at turning stress to an advantage. So it's called the New Science of Stress Relief. And basically, it equips you with the knowledge, the tools, the mindset, the support, and the community to transform stress, not just manage it. So you'll learn about all of the incredible things that stress can actually do for you. And you start to really challenge your beliefs around stress. You look at how you do stress and you start to gain an understanding what are the emotional stressors, because it is the emotional stressors that are causing you stress. You also look at which of your values are out of line and creating stress. You look at understand what are the strengths that you have that actually can be a source of fuel and can help you withstand stress. We also examine the role of resetting the nervous system in transforming stress, because actually our body can cope with resetting after stress, but we don't spend time in that zone. So we spend also a lot of time looking at the resetting aspect of the nervous system. So it's 6 weeks. It starts next Monday, November the 7th, 2nd. It's live online. And we've got a great deal actually on the sales page. But for anybody listening here, I'm also really happy to offer an additional bonus, 3 additional bonuses. So right now the course is $197. It's valued at $497. Next time I run it, it will be $497. But if you take action now, to in the next kind of day or two, I will offer you a 30-minute integration session with me. I'll also offer you an additional promo code so you can do this with someone else, another colleague, another friend, another family member. And you get lifetime access to the course and to the content. And if you're not happy with the course at the end of 6 weeks, I will refund you, no questions asked. I have never had to refund any money to anyone, Hugo, because I know these systems deliver value, and that's what I want to deliver for your audience and your listeners. So I'll send the link to the sales page. And
And for the many of you who is watching this, if you are feeling stressful, just like how I've been feeling just now, at a moment of time, just when we are about to wrap up the most important part of the live stream, and our connection is unstable. Things could happen out of nowhere. How many times in our life do you want to let circumstances, caught us off guard and influence our emotions? Or do we want to get it transformed? Do you want to get the right structure to how we can deal with stress? And if that is what you are looking for, I would encourage you to check out the 7 steps to transform your stress with Faye Lawand. And I will get you all these details in the email that I'm about to send you, perhaps by tomorrow morning, so that you can get all the details that you need to kickstart right away. So, of course, you can also follow Faye on social media. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram with the same name.
And LinkedIn as well.
And LinkedIn as well. Definitely.
Yeah, and I also have some meditations, some free meditations on the app Insight Timer. That, to calm the mind and boost immunity and all sorts of things. So I hope your viewers and listeners will enjoy those.
That would be awesome, right? Yeah, so there will be some meditation, some more materials that you can check out online from Faye. Okay, to sum it up, to all the audience who are still watching us whether in the main page right here or in the other pages where I can see all of you are still commenting. Thank you for joining us for the past 1 hour. I know it's your prayers time. I know it's your dinner time, yet you are here with us. We truly appreciate it. If you love this video, stay tuned. We will have it soon on YouTube, for you to rewatch it many times over. Okay, so do you have a final message to our viewers out here this evening, Faye?
Well, I just want to express appreciation to you and to the viewers for actually taking action on changing their life circumstances, right? Because as you said, there's many things that they could be doing right now, but they've recognized that there's a way that they're feeling that they'd like to kind of change or transform, and they're actively seeking action and they're actively doing something about it. And I think that is the first massive step towards success and towards transformation. So I'll just say, keep with that spirit of being in charge of yourself and in charge of your emotions. And really important just to keep, keep in mind that how you're feeling is 100% normal. This is so normal for you to feel what you're feeling. So normal. And then use it as an opportunity to learn new tools that will actually expand who you are and expand the direction in which your life is going in.
Wonderful. So once again, Faye, thank you for being with us.
Such a pleasure, Hugo.
Yeah, I mean, it's midnight for you and you still make time,
It's a pleasure. I care, like your viewers, I care, we all care about, making things better for all of us. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And to all of you guys, take care and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.